Ukraine's Secret Service agency has struck at Putin and his invasion forces once again, just days after blowing up over 40 aircraft as they sat on the ground deep inside Russia. It's another humiliating strike that makes Putin and his invasionary forces look vulnerable and makes Ukraine look superior in terms of technology, tactics, strategy, and logistics. I'm going to show footage of Ukraine's daring attack on a key piece of infrastructure, the Crimea Bridge, because it strikes at the heart of Russia's ability to wage war, of Putin's pronounced inability to lead, and Trump's utter foolishness at backing the wrong horse. We all remember these embarrassing scenes in the Oval Office, a planned and coordinated ambush of Zelensky that started with Marjorie Taylor Greene's boyfriend asking a moronic question, J.D. Vance making a fool out of himself.
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems.
And Trump showing that he has no grasp of anything.
You're playing cards. You're playing cards. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people.
What's telling about this meeting now is that Zelensky sat there the whole time knowing he was going to strike at the very ability of the Russian military to make war, first with a drone strike on Russia's bombers, and next with an underwater operation to blow up the bridge linking Russia to Crimea. Zelensky sat there being lectured at by a moron that was telling him he didn't hold any cards. Well, it turns out he's holding a bunch of aces. And nothing makes Trump even more foolish than the fact that the U.S. was told none of this prior to the attacks. Secrecy and timing were essential for these attacks, and Zelensky knew that if Trump had any advance notice, that the Russians would be told in a matter of minutes. So now this is the security status of the United States. It can't be trusted with top secret intelligence because a petulant orange taco runs the country. The attacks on the airfields by hundreds of drones shipped into Ukraine and driven to their destinations by Russian truckers was just unprecedented tactical deployment. It was a Trojan horse on steroids attack, and it has crippled Russia's ability to bomb Ukraine. Asked if he was worried that Russia would be angry and retaliate, Zelensky basically said it doesn't matter. Russia engages in war crimes on a daily basis. But his real response was this: blowing up the Crimean Bridge by targeting its foundations with underwater drones. Watch. So after months of covert work, Ukraine Security Service agents detonated explosives on the underwater pillars early this morning, causing serious structural damage. The bridge is now in a state of emergency and cannot be used. So now the Ukrainian Security Service has sidelined the Russian Air Force, and by cutting off the supply bridge from Russia, it has sidelined the Russian Army. Now, you might be asking, what about the Russian Navy? Well, funny you should ask. Ukraine does not really have a navy, and yet the Ukrainians were able to destroy 26 Russian vessels since the start of the war and force Russia's powerful Black Sea fleet to flee hundreds of miles to a safer harbor. How, you might ask? Using sea drones. Russia now has no ability to support its army, its air force is essentially grounded, and its famous Black Sea fleet has tucked its tail between its legs and run away. So tell us again, Trump, how Zelensky doesn't have any cards. Trump gambled on Putin and gambled on the fact that his MAGA movement would follow him blindly doing so. Well, that's a lot of gambling, and given how poorly Trump did in the casino business, it's not surprising that it came up snake eyes. And yes, it's clear that these two attacks have strengthened Zelensky's hand at these peace talks in Turkey, but that's not the only place where his hand has been strengthened. Ukraine could now launch a major counterattack, and Russia's ability to respond will be dramatically reduced. They will be forced to defend without resupply. One thing's for sure, if and when Ukraine attacks, Trump won't be told ahead of time. Let's see him rage post about that. Reporting from Rome, I'm Anthony Vincent Gallo for Occupy Democrats.